Welcome to Whores Talk Horror.
We're not really whores. We just like wordplay.
Hello, welcome to Whores Talk Horror. I'm Sharon.
And I'm Melinda.
And today is going to be our first Hodgepodge episode. So basically we have a bunch of random shit we're going to talk about. We have some upcoming TV shows that are horror related that we're going to be talking about. We have some follow-ups from last week's discussions about Wayne Boden and Daniel Gonzalez. We have some more 2020 horror movies that are going to be coming out.
Don't give it all away.
Well, we'll just stay tuned. But so first, Mindy, I don't think you know about any of these things that I'm going to be mentioning. And I don't think you know about any of this either, Spencer.
No.
We were instructed not to read her notes, so I'm really excited.
So there are a bunch of awesome TV shows that are going to be coming out. So this first one, this information comes from IndieWire. If you're a fan of the movie Parasite, writer-director Bong Joon-ho is developing a television adaptation of Parasite for HBO. So the cable network confirmed in January that they'd be making a television series based on Parasite, with Bong serving as the producer alongside Adam McKay, who is also an Oscar winner. He wrote The Big Short, and he's also a producer of HBO's Succession, which I need to start watching.
And, of course, Anchorman.
And yes, and there's that too. So Bong has been vocal about not being able to fit every idea that he wanted for Parasite into a 2-hour theatrical release. So he is going to be doing a TV adaptation to function as the 6-hour movie that he originally envisioned.
Oh, cool.
That sounds like a David Lynch length
I was
film.
just going to say, because initially a very initial thought was, please tell me it's not going to be like a reoccurring show, because like how much could they do with that? But this sounds interesting, actually.
Yeah, so it looks like it's just going to be like more like a mini series, I guess, than
I really
a TV
like
show.
that they're doing that more with TV shows now. It's like a limited series of maybe one or two, or
Yep.
they know where the end is.
Exactly.
Like
Westworld.
Breaking Bad, they knew 5 seasons, that's it. Like, I hate it that shows go beyond where they should. And so if you know you got a story that's going to be 1 or 2 seasons, done. It's like a long movie.
Yeah, and I know that like people have stopped watching this show, or at least talking about it as much, but I'm still catching up, but I'm still watching Westworld, and that's how they actually pitched the show initially, because that first season was so like badass, I thought, that everybody was hooked, and they said that they didn't want to walk into HBO and have a stellar first season and then be like get renewed and be like, oh
Now
shit.
what?
So they literally had 3 acts planned, which
Cool.
the third season's about to start. Anyway.
Also, I like what Fargo does is where it's like a completely different storyline each season. It keeps it much more interesting and fresh. Yeah, it is more like just
originality
a
in
long
television
movie.
is appreciated, I guess, is what we're saying.
So basically, Bong said there were so many stories that I thought could happen in between the sequences that you see in the film and some background stories for each character. Bong said of expanding Parasite into a television series, I really wanted to explore those ideas freely with a 5 or 6 hour film. You know, with Bergman's Fanny and Alexander, there's a theatrical version and there's also a TV version. So with the TV series for Parasite, I think I'll be able to create a high quality expanded film. And if you're a fan of his other movie, Snowpiercer, beginning in May, TNT will world premiere its television adaptation of Bong's 2013 sci-fi action film Snowpiercer, actually, which we just watched this week. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's
interesting.
It's very interesting.
I would say watch it for Tilda Swinton alone, quite frankly, sir.
She's good. She's good in everything she does. But yeah, she was.
It's an interesting movie, though, I think.
It was very interesting, and I'm excited about the TV series because hopefully they'll go more into the creation of the train and maybe even go what happens after.
And before, how did it, what happened in that time leading up to that?
Yeah, good point. So if you have not seen Snowpiercer, it is set in a dystopian future where all of civilization lives on a moving train that is divided by economic class. The rich live in luxury in the front of the train while the poor struggle in the overcrowded and impoverished back. So this TV series is going to star David Diggs from Hamilton and Blindspotting opposite Jennifer Connelly.
Whoa.
And Diggs is going to play a member of the lower class who leads a rebellion against the rich. And so Snowpiercer premieres May 31st on TNT. So I will definitely be checking that out.
I will too. That would be cool. But I'm excited about the Parasite show too. And HBO, man, they know what they're doing.
All right. So here's a possible new show that might become a thing. And before, Mindy, you get your panties in a bunch, let me explain the entire...
Her panties are always in a bunch.
No, and I think I know. I have a feeling...
Let me explain the entire plot before you get all fucking pissed off.
Okay.
All right. So this info comes from the Hollywood Reporter. Fox has handed out a pilot order to an untitled drama about a substitute teacher with 3 students attempting to reenact the Goonies. So, yes, I know you thought they were turning the Goonies into a television series.
I did.
But that's why I said don't get pissed off until I explain the whole thing, because this actually, the premise sounds really, really cool. So basically, the plot is after failing to make it in New York and carrying a heavy secret with her, Stella Cooper returns to her distressed automotive hometown to substitute teach. She finds inspiration, hope, and ultimately salvation when she agrees to help 3 students who are pursuing their filmmaking dreams to put on an impossibly ambitious, God, I can't fucking talk today, shot for shot.
Drink more coffee.
I need more coffee. I think the problem is I haven't had any alcohol for 5 days. Shot-for-shot remake of one of their favorite movies, The Goonies. Over the course of the season of the potential series, their passion will inspire a town in desperate need of hope in this love letter to the power of cinema, storytelling, and dreams. Greg Mottola, director of Superbad, and also he directed some episodes of HBO's Newsroom, will executive produce and direct the pilot. Gail Berman will also executive produce alongside Richard Donner and his wife Lauren Schuler. Amblin Entertainment is also producing this. So basically, the original Goonies was released in 1985. The story was written by Steven Spielberg, and it was directed by Richard Donner. So I'm thinking that with the combination of Donner and also Amblin Entertainment producing this,
yes,
it might be really, really good. Also, it sounds like it might be kind of piggybacking on the success of Stranger Things.
I was going to say it kind of sounds like a cross between, because I am a little judgy, I'm not going to lie. It kind of sounds like a cross between Stranger Things and the movie Hamlet 2, which is not a horror film, but if anybody has not seen that movie, I can't recommend it enough. But you're right. The fact that Donner himself is involved and Amblin Entertainment, I'll check it out.
Well, it's not even... They just ordered the pilot, so
right.
It's not even on IMDb.
Yeah, I actually hope this does become a thing because it sounds like one of those underdog stories that I'm kind of a sucker for.
Yeah, it does kind of.
So I think it'd be really cool. And plus, I kind of want to see how children would recreate a shot-for-shot version of The Goonies, which is one of my all-time favorite childhood movies.
Oh, for sure. That was another one, that and Freddy Krueger, we would watch a lot in my parents' basement.
All right.
They have announced The Goonies 2.
Oh, all right. See, that we don't need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the characters or actors is Cyndi Lauper.
Really?
So we'll see about
They're
that.
They're probably just going to reuse the song.
Is anyone else from the original cast in this?
It says Corey Feldman is one of the stars. And Cyndi Lauper and Robert Davi. I'm not sure who he is. Anyway, that's all that it says.
Well, at least Corey Feldman's in it. I mean, if they can get more people, if they can get Sean Astin, Josh Brolin, Martha Plimpton, maybe. They don't need to make this movie.
No, but that's why, and I saw that look you gave me, Sharon, but whatever. We'll see if that even happens, but is now the time to mention that I'm already going to burn down Hollywood since they're remaking the movie Clue?
Oh, I know. That's just the worst ever.
It's also not a horror movie, but the original is a masterpiece, and it's, I think, Disney. I read, isn't that the article you sent me? I think, but Ryan Reynolds and the Deadpool people are behind it.
Really?
Which I'm like, Spencer's making a face that could,
maybe it's gonna be because the original Clue is PG, so maybe they're gonna do a more adult version of it with a lot more violence and
Well, but do we need that?
blood and gore.
And also, the original's so freaking good and so well written that I was thinking, are they doing this because they're worried that millennials won't know, like, that communism is just a red herring? Because if that's the case, like, they can pick up a history book and read about J. Edgar Hoover's phone tapping. These are all references to the original Clue, by the way. But they don't need to remake it. Just teach people about history through comedy.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much that was going to be related to it, but at the very least, it's probably going to be much more like self-referential and meta, and not that the other one wasn't funny. It was very funny, but this one's going to be, if that team is involved, it should be pretty funny,
You
too.
know we're going to go fucking see it when it comes out.
Well, we're going to have to.
Because we're either going to have to make fun of it or eat crow, so.
Yeah. I mean, I can't be judgy if I haven't seen it, so.
All right.
Anyway, sorry.
Well, there are people who are making original stuff. So this next show comes from Deadline. On Tuesday, Showtime confirmed the development of a new half-hour series titled The Auteur. And I think you have to pronounce it that way. It's based on the graphic novel of the same name. And what is exciting about this? Well, it's set to star Jude Law, and one of the co-writers and producers is Taika Waititi, who just won the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, which he also directed, produced, and starred in.
Oh, well.
He's also one of the writers and directors for What We Do in the Shadows, both the TV show and the movies, along with my New Zealand boyfriend, Jermaine Clement.
Oh, you back off, bitch. Yeah, no, he's amazing, actually. They both are. But
they both are.
That's exciting that he's doing that.
So The Auteur is based on the graphic novel by Rick Spears, James Callahan, and Luigi Anderson. It's described as a gonzo horror comedy, a twisted romance, and a glamorous high-wire act of biting satire.
I'm in.
Totally. And basically, the plot can be summed up as being desperate to make a great horror movie after a massive bomb. A film producer accidentally traps his production on a backlot with a serial killer.
I'm so in. Hardcore.
So Waititi is set to direct the pilot episode. Follow-up episodes, him directing those is going to be subject to basically his availability because he's busy as fuck.
Good. He's talented as fuck, so I'm glad.
Yeah, I love him, and I love the concept of this. So,
oh my God, so good. Yeah.
And then finally, we're recording this on the 22nd. It will be airing on the 24th, but tomorrow on the 23rd,
what?
The new Forensic Files
That's right.
is scheduled to air. I'm so excited. The previous narrator, who we all know and love his voice, he passed away, sadly, but the new season is going to be narrated by actor Bill Camp from The Outsider and Joker, The Night of, Dark Waters. So
that's exciting.
yeah, I think he'll probably do a good job.
Also, what day did you say it is today that we're recording?
The 22nd, Kyle MacLachlan's birthday.
Which means tomorrow is February 23rd.
24th is Twin Peaks Day.
I was trying to build to it. I was trying to build to it.
So close.
Sorry.
But this episode will be airing on Twin Peaks Day. So
That's what I was trying to build to.
happy
and I
Twin
failed.
Peaks Day, everyone.
Yeah.
It's like we're future Sharon and Mindy, and we're also past Sharon and Mindy.
That's right. It's weird. We could do it, though. It's
It's
physics. We won't explain it.
We're in a time loop. It's complicated, but all right.
Anyway.
Bill Camp shares your birthday, by the way.
Does he now? Aw. So that is all I have as far as upcoming TV shows that are coming out. Now we are going to move this hodgepodge episode into a different direction. Last week, we had an episode talking about Wayne Boden, who was a serial killer and rapist from Montreal, and how he was tied into the movie Black Christmas. So Mindy just got the brand new DVD, and take it, Mindy.
Take it. It's not brand new. It came out, I think, in 2014, but it's like the 40th anniversary collector's edition. And I have spent the majority of the week. It's a 2-disc set, and it has a lot of special features. A lot.
Should I buy it?
You know what? I think so. I mean, it's a classic movie, and they have what's kind of adorable because it came out in 2014. The first disc is the movie with the commentary, which I didn't even get to watch the commentary. That's how much stuff is on the special features disc. But they advertise like all new 2K restoration of the original film, which I'm actually anxious to see, but it's just funny because like now they're up to like 8K or some shit now. But they also have like the original like cut that's not remastered, which I think is the only one I've ever seen like that, you know, from the time. Anyway, I was hoping to hear them talk more about the rumor but sort of true story that Roy Moore, the screenwriter for Black Christmas, was inspired by, as Sharon said, serial killer Wayne Boden. They didn't talk about it really. I watched a lot of. There's great special features. There's a great section with like old archival interviews with everybody, including Margot Kidder, which was really cool to see. But there was only one sort of retrospective special that they had amongst the special features, where the only mention, even slightly related, was in the voiceover, which was the voiceover narration, of this particular special feature, which was done by actor John Saxon. And he just mentions that Roy Moore was inspired by these killings that took place in Montreal. Like, he doesn't even mention Boden by name. And then apparently, and this is pretty known at this point, but then the script was then got to Bob Clark, and Bob Clark did a lot of rewrites and such. So I looked in IMDb again, and they say that there was a mention in a Q&A with Clark of Boden, and it just says from a few years back, and this is from the FAQ section on Black Christmas on IMDb. While there is a Q&A as part of the special features with Bob Clark, he does not talk about any serial killers. I will say, I could talk about the special features all day, which I won't, but I will say that in most of the special features, Clark definitely confirms that conversation with John Carpenter, where John Carpenter asked Clark if he was going to do a Black Christmas sequel, and when Clark said he didn't think so, Carpenter asked what it would be about, and Clark does confirm that his idea was, or is, basically essentially the plot of what became Halloween. But what was kind of cute is every single time he would talk about this, he was very quick to point out that, like, Halloween is all Carpenter's baby. Like, maybe he, maybe he got the idea from Clark describing his potential sequel, but Bob Clark literally was like, but he wrote, directed, and did that entire score all by himself. Like really does like put the onus on John Carpenter. He's not like, that was my idea, which I thought that was kind of cute. Like it's mentioned at least 5 times, and every single time he's like, well, yeah, we had this conversation, that did happen, but then he made all the music and that's his thing. Like, it's sweet. So.
All right. Well, I guess it's a little disappointing that they didn't mention Wayne Boden, but also they probably don't want to bring up a horrible fucking rapist and really connect him to the film.
Well, and I didn't even have time to watch. There is a movie, like on the movie disc, there is a commentary with Bob Clark. I didn't have a chance to even get to that. So I might report back later and see if he says something, but.
Okay.
Wah, wah.
I thought you said you weren't going to talk about Black Christmas anymore.
Oh, hush.
Just kidding.
It'll never happen.
All right. So also in our episode from last week, we told the story of Daniel Gonzalez, a.k.a. the Freddy Krueger killer. He was a British spree killer who was responsible for the deaths of 4 people and also injuring 2 others over a 2-day rampage in September of 2004 in London and Sussex. So basically in our discussion last week, we touched on the fact that he did have known mental illness. Well, actually, we did more than touch on the fact, but that was a big part of our discussion. And both he and his mom tried repeatedly to get him the help he needed, and that his murder spree could have possibly been avoided entirely if the doctors, the police, and a lot of other people that were supposed to help him, and basically if they just took his mental illness more seriously. So Mindy was asking last week if it was ever brought up in his trial that there were repeated tries to help him prior to the murders. And I was also wondering if the doctors or any of the people in charge of treating him were held responsible for their negligence of the situation, or if they lost their licenses. So I did some more research, and this is what I found.
Really quick, I'm just going to say before you reveal the answer, my call was that bullshit, no way that did anybody lose their license or be held responsible. So, Sharon.
Well, Mindy, if
I'm not a betting woman, so maybe that's a good thing.
But if you were, you might win big. So we're going to backtrack just a little bit, and we're going to start with what happened to Daniel 2 days before the murders. And you actually mentioned the police being held responsible at all. And I was like, well, it was more like the doctors, but you were actually right. So based on what happened 2 days before the murders and what the police could have done differently, according to an article by Syria Live, Daniel Gonzalez ran naked in front of school children and parents 2 days before he first killed, but police were powerless to arrest him. Surrey's police power to deal with mentally ill officers was, quote, very limited, but officers were found not to be negligent by an independent police complaints commission report. I gotta say that one slowly because
that's a lot of
was a little bit of a tongue twister there. All right, so the report found police acted, quote, appropriately and proportionately following 7 separate reports of a man running naked in Nap Hill on September 13th, 2004. Gonzalez's mother, Leslie Savage, and her partner, Stephen Harper, say police could have averted the 2-day killing spree if they had acted on the request for Gonzalez to be detained under the Mental Health Act. The commission's report was completed in July of 2005 following the couple's complaints. So this is almost a year after the murders. 2 officers, PCs, Fellows, and Raleigh were called to Nap Hill just after 8 a.m. on September 13th to search for Gonzalez. Both officers, who the report says were not at fault, were unable to locate Daniel. Gonzalez, an untreated paranoid schizophrenic whose police file contained warnings for, quote, for weapons, mental health issues, and officer safety, was not identified as the naked man until later that morning when Mr. Harper, his stepdad, visited the Woking police station. So officers took no further action, and 2 days later, Gonzalez slit the throat of a woman in Worthing, and his attacks continued until September 17th when he was arrested in London. So Mr. Harper said that he did go to the police expecting Gonzalez to be taken into hospital because of his mental state, as had happened twice before. And Daniel's mom said that her partner asked not to be identified because he was nervous about upsetting Daniel, but he did give the address of where Daniel was located and made it clear that Daniel was there at the time. So, hey, like, that was him running naked. Go to the house. He's there now. Take him into a hospital. Get him treated.
Here's a video uploaded to YouTube. You can clearly see his face. Oh my God.
Here's some
seriously?
Polaroids that I took. Here's some photos.
Jesus.
Here's a sketch I did.
We did a character at Disney World.
So Mr. Harper spoke to Jackie Dorr, a receptionist at the Woking police station, who has since been promoted because, you know, a lot of people get promoted for not doing their jobs, right? So now she works elsewhere, but her statement is at odds with Mr. Harper's, and the notes that she took have been lost.
Oh, that's helpful.
But the report states that Dorr said that Mr. Harper refused to give his name and address.
Yeah.
And did not want police involvement, which totally contradicts what I just said about him going to the police station and being like, here's my address. This is my stepson's name. He needs help. So, yeah.
And why would he be at the police station anyway if he didn't want to talk to the police?
Yeah, that makes
to hang
zero
out?
sense.
Like,
I just wanted to say you guys are doing a phenomenal job.
Well, and of course.
Here's some donuts.
Yeah.
So, you know, her word against his word, it doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. So yeah, so basically she said that he refused to give his name and address as he did not want police involvement, but was unable to recall whether the man had said Daniel was back at home. So Doesn't add up. The report states if police had acted, their options under the Mental Health Act would have been limited. It adds the policy should have been updated or at least reviewed in July of 2014 and was not. So police could have sought a warrant from magistrates who have Gonzalez removed or contacted a social worker who could have authorized him to be taken to a hospital. Daniel's mom did contact a mental health social worker named only as Mr. Kiza in the report, but it states she described him as indifferent and passive. This made her perturbed and angry.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
So she was adamant on Tuesday that a different approach on September 13th would have averted the tragedy that unfolded later that week. She said, quote, they definitely would have seen he was completely gaga if they had came here. They would have seen he was psychotic. All right. So this information comes from 100families.org, which is an organization that supports families who have lost loved ones as a result of killings by people with severe mental illness. So these statements are made by Daniel's mom, his stepfather, and also Daniel himself.
Okay.
So this first statement comes from Daniel's mom. Every time we asked for help, we were told we would have to wait for a crisis to occur before we could have the help he needed. I did not know something dreadful was going to happen, but I was scared. This is actually a handwritten letter that Daniel wrote himself that he gave to his general practitioner on October of 2003, 11 months before the killing. I really do need help now. I have tried to cope on my own like a normal human being without help or medication, but I have not managed to succeed. I was admitted to hospital in 1998 under Section 37 of the Mental Health Act. I do not want this to happen again, so I really need to go to hospital voluntarily and receive treatment under the care of doctors before my mental state gets worse. Please, please help me. This is very urgent. I really, really do need mental help and find the correct environment and the correct medication. I need to take this in a controlled hospital environment. Can you please help me? I would really appreciate it if you would help me improve as I am in a desperate situation.
P.S. Here's the severed foot of the last person I killed.
Daniel was not admitted to a hospital.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm doing like the Picard, like, face palm thing right now. Oh my God.
And this is a statement also made by Daniel. The day before I committed the offenses, I was seen running around Nap Hill Estate completely naked, round the shops, past all the pubs and everything, back down the road and round the estate completely naked. Yet I wasn't arrested. No social workers or doctors came to see me or anything like that. Nothing was done to prevent that at all. I don't know why I did it, to be honest. I absolutely have no idea. That morning, I was punching myself in the face, trying to give myself black eyes, and I did have one black eye. I was just going mad. I have never been this ill before, not even when I committed my offenses. I think I was in a mode of self-harm, but in a different type of way. I wanted to degrade myself, self-degradation to feel better. That's the reason why I did that. I tried to break my nose by jumping face down on the dustbin. I threw myself down the stairs about 3 or 4 times. Anyway, I was running around the estate naked and everyone saw this. My stepdad called the police. The police didn't come. That's heartbreaking.
That is utterly heartbreaking. Utterly. This whole situation. I mean, literally, like, what more do you have to do?
It's so ridiculous to have someone begging for help and then...
In their police files, it says this guy has mental illness. He's been institutionalized, blah, blah, blah.
And the fact that people thought he was faking, that his doctors thought he was faking, and even if he was faking, like...
And this was when? What year was this?
This was in 2004. Well, 2003, 2004.
So we're not talking like 1965 or some shit. Like, this is like, not recent, but like, appalling. Absolutely.
So this comes from Stephen Harper, Daniel's stepfather. This is about the morning that he was found running around naked. I can tell you exactly what happened because I still remember it like it was yesterday. I woke up in the morning. It was one of my rest days. I went downstairs, had a cup of tea, went out to the driveway, and got into my car. I heard movement upstairs. I knew Daniel was awake. I sat in my car and was just rolling a cigarette, and the next thing I knew, Daniel came running up the drive, sprinting straight past me without any clothes on. This was at approximately 10 past 8 in the morning. There are quite a few schools where I live, so there were people about, and it was quite quite a busy time. I thought I would drive to see where he was going and what was going on. I couldn't find him, so I drove around the village for a bit, and then I phoned Leslie at work. She said to go and check if he's back at home. I went back, opened up the front door. I knew he was home because I could see through the living room window. I could see him pacing up and down. I walked in and there was no sound at all. He had obviously heard me come in and it went quiet. I said, "Daniel, I've been looking for you in Nap Hill." He said, "I wasn't in Nap Hill, man," in a really strange voice that I had never heard before.
Ooh.
I thought, something's wrong here. I could just sense that something wasn't quite right. I thought the only thing I can do is go down to the police station. I thought, if I can go down to the police station, they'll take me more seriously. I can give them a lot more information. Paranoid schizophrenic, not taking any medication, just fill them in on a bit of the details. That's what I did. The police did not attend. Later that day, Daniel's mother called the duty social worker at the community mental health team, but again, without results.
What the fuck?
I know. It's so frustrating. So then this comes from Daniel again. If someone makes a phone call to the mental health team and says, "My son's running around the estate naked and he's jumping down the stairs and he's trying to fall flat on his face to see if he can break his nose. If I'm running around the estate naked, they should have acted. He called the police and I didn't get arrested for it. That would easily have prevented those crimes because I was in a very bad way." So I'm not sure if all these statements were made at the trial or after the conviction. But now we are going to...
That letter, though, that he wrote
I know.
is utterly heartbreaking.
It's really amazing to hear his own words
right
about this whole thing.
I know.
And I joked about the severed foot thing, but it's literally what else do I have to do to make you arrest me?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he was running around a neighborhood where his stepdad said there were many people out,
and 7 people called the cops.
What the... I mean, come
nothing
on, man.
happened. And also, most serial killers don't ask for help.
Right.
I think the
Right.
closest that I know of is Dahmer, who he had remorse after his murders. And I think he really did want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But people like Bundy, he never, from what we know, he was killing probably 10 years or more before it was even known about.
Yeah, who knows?
And if he didn't get caught, he would have just kept going and going and going. I don't think he ever would have stopped. And other killers as well, like Green River Killer, and
yeah,
I don't know. It's rare
horrible
that someone asks for help. When it gets to that point where you're going to go out and you're going to commit murder, where you're begging for help so you don't do it.
And if you're a schizophrenic and you yourself recognize and admit that you're having a problem, that is up above and beyond. And I was about to say, if I were him, I would have just gone to the ER, but actually probably nothing would have happened.
Yeah, who knows?
Oh, that's horrible.
So this comes from The Guardian. Now we get to the trial.
Okay, good.
So during the trial, Daniel Gonzalez was described by the prosecution as a callous, cold person who wanted to emulate the slaughter inflicted by the evil figure of Freddy Krueger. Prosecutor Richard Horwell said Gonzalez subsequently tried to manipulate psychiatrists into believing he heard voices commanding him to kill and was a, quote, psychopath whose, quote, very personality led him to kill, disinhibited by a cocktail of drugs and alcohol. The prosecution accepted Gonzalez had a personality disorder, but insisted he was not suffering from mental illness. But a personality disorder is a mental illness, but it's a very serious one. So that doesn't even make sense on their, what they're saying. The defense claimed that he was guilty of manslaughter, not murder. So
what was the prosecutor's name?
Richard Horwell.
More like Richard Horrible.
Good one.
Good one, Mindy.
But oh yeah, I can't even.
So now after the trial, and there was an inquiry into his healthcare.
Okay.
So an inquiry into Gonzalez's care and treatment was carried out by the Syrian Borders Partnership NHS Trust, which is a mental health clinic in southern England. After the guilty verdict, the NHS Trust, which treated Gonzalez for 7 years, said that
7 years?
7 years they worked with him. In that time, they said there was, quote, no sign he would show serious violence towards others. A statement from the Syrian Borders Partnership NHS Trust, which took over from the Northwest Surrey Mental Health Partnership, said everyone who was involved in his care was shocked and horrified to hear that he had been charged with these dreadful offenses. The trust offers its sincere sympathy to the families of Mr. Gonzalez's victim and understands from the jury's verdicts that they believe that his mental illness was not a factor of the attacks. Fucking bullshit.
How is he treated for 7 years, but they're like, oh, but he's fine?
Yeah. And
like, well, what were they doing for 7 years then? Like,
this whole story is just ridiculous.
I don't even know why I'm asking these questions.
Infuriating.
Yeah.
So they also said these incidents were not preceded by a history of violence, and for that reason, the trust does not believe his actions could have been predicted.
Oh my God.
Trust Chief Executive Fiona Edwards said there was no direct link between Gonzalez's illness and his shocking attacks. Mr. Gonzalez was a disturbed young man who acted as he did from forces that we may never fully understand, she said. If there are any lessons we can learn that will in any way reduce the likelihood of this kind of tragedy happening again, we certainly want to discover them. Like maybe when a person begs for help and says that they should be locked up and they're not right in the head, listen to them and fucking help them. Just a thought.
Yeah, like we never expected it. Well, here's a letter I can show you that he wrote. Like, what? Oh my God. And honestly, like, why would anyone ask for help? It's not like, I mean, I don't speak from personal experience, but from what I can tell, like, being admitted to like a mental hospital or whatever ain't like, a party. Like, it's not like a fun thing. So why would the very thought that he would be faking it for attention,
unless you have a horrible home life? But it sounded like his mom and stepdad actually really cared about him.
Plus,
so
like, yeah, there's other options for if you have a bad home life. Like, the first thing I wouldn't think would be like, I'll go to a mental hospital. Like,
yeah, he wanted to be
God.
treated. He wanted someone to come and give him medications because he couldn't do that on his own. Ugh. Yeah, no, the whole thing is infuriating. I'm glad I found that extra research.
Yes.
Answered my question, hopefully answered your questions.
And at least, like, poor Daniel, like, more of that backstory gets out into the world for him and for other, hopefully, in some ways it could help potentially someone else suffering. But that is just horrible.
Hopefully.
Horrible, horrible. So,
speaking of mental illnesses.
All right.
You finally watched Joker.
I did. And I have multiple notes in front of me because, as you know, since you both have seen it, Sharon, I know you've watched it many times now. Like, it's a complicated movie, and I had a lot of thoughts rushing into my brain immediately after finishing it. And so I have been trying to articulate these thoughts.
And the reason we're discussing Joker now, because obviously it came out quite a while ago. When it first came out in the theaters, we brought it up while we were recording an episode, and Mindy went off on like a 20-minute tirade about how she'll not watch this movie and how it's fucking bullshit and how blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And she was basically just quoting every newspaper article, or newspaper, she doesn't read the fucking newspaper, every article she read online. And we were like, whoa, 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 like, calm down.
Actually, I hadn't read, like, it was like trending and stuff, which is how I heard about it. I hadn't read a whole lot of articles. I have now.
But you had a whole lot of opinions for someone who didn't see this movie. So now that you've finally just watched it like a week ago, I need to hear, because we have not talked about this since you've watched it. I need to hear your thoughts on this movie.
So,
and if your opinions have changed.
I think initially I'm like personally Batmaned out, and I just, in my current headspace, especially at the time, I was like, I don't think like I can handle a movie like this, but also I'm sure it'll be great. Joaquin will be great, but like I'm just not in the headspace. That had a lot to do with it. But then yes, people were complaining about idolizing a psycho that goes on a murder spree. That was like the big one that we heard, that I heard. Sorry, me, myself, and I, which obviously I have no problems with that since we're doing this podcast about horror movies. But I did watch it because I knew I wanted to wait and watch it like in my living room by myself. And my initial reaction was a feeling of astonishing emptiness that was buoyed by this genius performance. And I think that was intentional. I have my own theory about why there was so much controversy, and I had sent Sharon these like mad crazy texts where she was probably like, okay, Mindy's either just done a lot of coke and is freaking out, but like in terms of articulating my thoughts, this is a sentence I never thought I'd ever say, but what finally helped me pull everything together was two quotes, one by Joaquin Phoenix himself and another by Donald Trump. So yeah. Having said that,
the looks that went around this room just now. Were
having said that, and this, I mean, when you talk about movies, it's your opinion. So obviously, this is mostly all my opinion, clearly. But my initial reaction was the controversy around this movie. It comes down to one thing, and that's privilege. It is very, to quote Tracy Jordan. Tracy Morgan's character from 30 Rock in an episode where he says, I want to hold up a mirror to society and then win an award for biggest mirror. When you make a movie that does that kind of a thing, you know, everybody wants to look in the mirror and see a good reflection. And let's be honest, not all of us, nobody's perfect. Not everybody has great moments every single day. And there are things happening in this world right now that are not very great. And I felt like this movie really kind of did hold up a mirror to the reality of what's going on. I give us a year before like certain parts of this country are like full Gotham, at least as it's portrayed in Joker. My initial response was, oh, okay, this was a movie made from the perspective of the have-nots, and the haves are all pissed off because they, spoiler alert, don't come off looking all that great. And I could be wrong, but I think that people saw how that perception and perspective was set up and was just like not happy with it, whether it registered consciously or not with them.
I think
Who
that's
knows?
some of the people that were upset. Obviously, there's people upset because this is another story of a white man who's,
Which that's what I was going to say. I'm going to recognize the fact that, yes, he is a white guy, but, you know, like you were talking about with Daniel Gonzalez, the biggest argument about the movie that I heard was, you know, let's not idolize psychos on killing sprees, which I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Because he's clearly mentally ill. And
there's also not a lot of murder.
There's not.
Right, there's no killing spree.
Exactly.
Compared to a lot of the other movies that we watch, you know, there's really not that much violence and murder in it.
Yeah, I that perspective, I honestly am like, I think you maybe saw a different movie than I did. But also, Daniel Gonzalez was dealing with mental illness, which I'm not in any way tying mental illness to murder or violence. Like, I just have to say that. Nor am I condoning the violence that does happen in the film by any stretch.
And that was, I think, another point of contention was a lot of people were saying they're making a direct link between mental illness and violence. And it's very rare that someone with mental illness does go to those lengths of violence or murder or anything like that, which I don't think is the point of the movie, that it's saying that mentally ill people are going to commit murder or violent acts.
And I guess for people who haven't seen it, I won't say specifically, but if you stayed till the end, the very last scene, if you listen to what Arthur, Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker, his character's saying, he's kind of explaining what the movie's about, quite frankly. And I had a thought last night where I was like, you know, as you walk down the street, like, does everybody stop and give money to homeless people? What do? They usually walk on past. If you hear someone's on Medicaid, do you judge somehow a little bit? Maybe a little, kind of? Like, that happens in this world. And we see that happening to him. And all he wants to do is bring a little bit of a smile into the world. and is just looked over and laughed at and cast aside. I will say that my heart literally broke in half. Like Daniel Gonzalez, he's trying to seek help and was seeing a public counselor, and there's a scene where he's trying to talk to her more about his feelings, and she has to stop him, and she's like, our funding's been cut. And he doesn't really get it, and she's like, no, I can't help you anymore. And without getting too much into it, like being someone who's dealt with, insurance issues and health issues and how that whole madness, that was just devastating to me. And that was for me where I was like, okay, like that was the turning point in the movie, because people have limits. And I think that you can push people so far. And again, not that I necessarily am condoning, but I also didn't find it completely unrealistic that he would realize this new identity sort of as like a way to kind of find a way to vent the anger.
And also it just wasn't the mental health issues, which he clearly had, but he grew up being physically abused, which a lot of people who do turn into killers is not just because they have mental health issues. They deal with years of abuse, and he also had abuse from his mother.
Right.
There's a lot of other things besides just, he's depressed, he has mental health issues, and he just doesn't know how to cope anymore. Like there's a whole back history, a lot more to his story that briefly gets mentioned.
Right. And then
that I think people forget about.
Right. And add to that the fact that he's obviously lower class. He's ignored in life in general. I mean, like the opening scene, like, he's one of those guys you feel sorry for on the corner with like a sign for somebody's store, and some punks attack him and kick the shit out of him and like fuck up his sign, and his boss's response, despite the fact that he's like completely bruised and fucked up, his boss is like, well, you got to get that fixed or you owe me. Like, are you serious? Like,
and he doesn't believe him. He's like, why would somebody do that?
No, he accused him of stealing the sign, actually.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But the point was, he was like, well, you either replace it or you pay me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, it's so obvious though. Like all of those frustrations added together, I'm surprised there wasn't more violence in the movie, quite frankly.
And honestly, the point to me where I kind of saw him break the first time I watched the movie was when he was on the bus and he was trying to make the little boy laugh. Oh. And it was like a scene where he was like actually interacting with someone who smiled back at him.
Yes.
And then the mom
didn't think he was weird or creepy or something.
Yeah.
And that's what he wanted, was to make people smile.
Yeah. And then the mom was like, quit bothering my son.
Which, to be fair.
He's pretty creepy looking. I would probably be like, yeah, don't talk to my son either. But in his mind, he's harmless, and he just wants to laugh and make people laugh. And that's how he sees himself, is this person who's put on earth to make people laugh. And I think that right there, you could just see him break just a little bit more. Like,
oh yeah. So bringing it back to privilege, I feel all over the social media, in politics, like the common conversation that's happening is like, if this doesn't directly affect my life, why should I care? I honestly think that people, like you said, not all, but like, or actually as Sharon said, not all, but a good amount of people, I think, were rubbed probably the wrong way by seeing that society really does sometimes treat the less fortunate in a pretty shitty fashion. And
I think they always have.
Well, right.
But from the beginning of time.
This is like, they don't pull punches. And Joaquin's like performance absolutely pulls no punches in showing the effect and the hurt that inflicts on someone in that position. And you know what? Like, that's not easy for people to come to terms with, which brings me to the quotes that I have. I'll start with Joaquin Phoenix. And he was on the cover, Sharon, you probably know this, of Vanity Fair in October 2019.
Yeah, it's hanging over my bed.
That's what I figured. And this is from that article.
Spencer doesn't like it, but tough shit. No.
I'll get my own poster.
That photo shoot was pretty easy on the eyes, I have to say. But I was looking for quotes when I was reading the article. Anyway.
Quotes
and air quotes.
So this is from said Vanity Fair interview. Actor Joaquin Phoenix anticipated a mixed reaction to the film's moral ambiguity. It's a difficult film, he acknowledges. We want the simple answers. We want to vilify people. It allows us to feel good if we can identify that as evil. Well, I'm not racist because I don't have a Confederate flag or go to this protest. It allows us to feel that way. But that's not healthy because we're not really examining our inherent racism that most white people have, certainly, or whatever it may be. The movie isn't a call to action, he insists, but a call to self-reflection to society, which I could not agree with more. So having said that, at a rally in Colorado earlier the week that we're recording this, so like around February 19th or so, Donald Trump was bitching about everything, but he started bitching about the Oscars this year and referenced...
Why? Because he wasn't nominated?
Well, this is one of the quotes I didn't want you to see because I laughed my butt off at the response to this. But basically, he brought up Parasite, which actually deals with a lot of the same concepts, just in a slightly different way. And this is from the Washington Times discussing this rally that Trump spoke at and bitched about the Oscars. And the winner is a movie from South Korea. What the hell was that all about? Mr. Trump said at a campaign rally in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We've got enough problems with South Korea with trade. And after all that, they give them the best movie of the year, he asked. Can we get Gone with the Wind back, please?
What the fuck?
And I'm like, that sums up everything. Yeah, let's get a movie about a giant plantation in the South in the old, like, the goddess Bette Midler on Twitter just yesterday actually responded to a story about that quote, and she tweeted, at his rally, Trump complained about Parasite winning the Oscar. I'm more upset that Parasite won the White House.
Nice. Good one.
Oh, she's the best, man. She really is.
I was going to say, I almost called her Babs. I was going to say, good one, Babs. Nope. Wrong diva.
I'm just because I want to pull a different kind of negative perspective and then let Sharon have at it really quick.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? Let's bitch about a movie because it's from another country and say, let's bring a movie back that's about the fucking Civil War. Go home, Grandpa, you're drunk.
Yeah. But I think that he's not alone in feeling that way, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that's why he's fucking president.
To go to a negative perspective, that was one that I hadn't heard before, because we're talking about how much we like the movie and the things we found important, but to have a fair and balanced argument, and then I'm going to let Sharon have at it after I read this quote. This is from a Slate article called Joker's Oscar Nominations Are a Joke by Dan Kois. I'm going to say it's Kois. And his quote is, Joker is a movie for people who think that blood spatter and dwarf jokes are daring and provocative, when in fact they are extremely tired. Joker is a movie for people who think that movies about class riots demonstrate actual class consciousness by a Hollywood studio, when in fact the movie is porn for viewers who get off on squalor. Joker is a movie for people who think that starving yourself, being a pain to your coworkers, and allegedly kicking a dumpster so hard you dislocate your knee are evidence of good acting. In fact, they are not.
What the fuck?
That was one of his many rants as to why Joker did not deserve Oscar nominations. And I had not heard that kind of...
well, he just summed that up perfectly, didn't he?
That kind of argument before. So I felt... But again, I'm like, but you missed subtleties that made up more... about, like, you missed parts that are very valid. And actually, I am not a fan of people, physically changing drastically for films, but actually, yes, Joaquin was like thinner, but not horribly. He wasn't like machinist skinny like
no,
Christian
he wasn't
Bale.
Machinist skinny, but he was pretty gross.
He
lost
was.
like what 50 or 60 pounds.
But he also his use of his body and his movement was astounding to me. Like, and I was actually, I don't know if he's had dance training really, but like, I thought that he used his physicality in a way that was really, really, really stunning. So I did like the movie, but I also was like, I don't really know when I'll want to watch this again, just because I felt like there was too much of it that hit too close to home. But I
From
think,
your days as a performance clown.
yes, but I think it's also something that we need to be doing, and we need to be having these conversations. I did enjoy it. I think it's an important movie. I'm not a huge Todd Phillips fan. I was kind of surprised to see this coming from him. But yeah, I think it's important. It's relevant. And fuck the haters. Joaquin Phoenix was amazing. And I know I'm biased, but I thought he was great. And that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, and I'm glad that your opinion changed actually after watching it, and that you didn't just, let other people's comments on fucking social media influence you.
Well,
so
again, like I said, though, I don't
pat
know
yourself
when
on the back, Mindy.
I don't know when I want to watch it again, though.
You don't have to watch it again. The fact is, you watched it.
I had to gear up for it.
And you had to eat a little crow, so.
All right. I'll admit it, but yes.
All right. So now let's turn the beat around.
Yeah, girl.
And we're gonna talk about more positive stuff.
Like more horror.
Like more horror. But we're getting away from the whole political discussion here. And we're just going to be talking about some of the 2020 horror movies that we have watched thus far.
Yes, we are.
Starting with After Midnight. No spoilers.
No.
These are going to be quick. All I have to say without giving anything away about At Midnight is I enjoyed it.
After Midnight.
Oh, sorry.
Are you talking about the game show on Comedy Central, At Midnight?
Oh, shit. Oh, I forgot about that show. That show used to be good. I used to like that. All right. After Midnight. So all I'm going to say without giving anything away is I enjoyed it. I thought the acting was really good. It was well produced for an independent film, basically meaning it didn't look shitty.
Yeah.
And I will never listen to the song Stay by Lisa Loeb ever again without thinking of this movie.
I literally have written my only comment about After Midnight was After Midnight had me with Lisa Loeb.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I at first was kind of iffy because obviously, good horror movies or movies in general don't lay out their hands, right from the beginning. So like you had to build to see what was going to happen. But by the end of it, I was quite delighted. It was fun, and just watch it.
So I saw Come to Daddy. Did you watch that one?
I did not. No.
I love Elijah Wood, but
Agreed.
I did not really care for this movie too much. I actually kind of need to watch it again, though, I think. So if you want to watch it, I'll watch it with you. But I was really tired when I watched it, so I don't think I was fully paying attention. So I don't have too much to say about it, but I did take some notes with the intent to discuss the film, but I don't really understand my notes.
Ooh, but read them.
Oh, I'm going to.
Yes.
I'm going to read my notes, and I'm going to let you all decide if you would watch this movie based on what I wrote.
Excellent.
First note, they say cunt a lot. All right.
Yeah. I mean, that's whatever.
That may do it for some people. That might turn some people off. I wrote, this is my second note. The first death is by saran wrap and crotch stabbing.
Yeah, I'm in.
Third note, poo pens? Question mark?
Wait, how is that spelled?
Like you think.
Two words.
2 words. Poo and then pens.
Do you not remember that?
I remember a scene involving a pen with poo on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. I thought you meant like depends, but specifically for poops.
No. No.
I mean, that's what depends are for.
Well,
I mean, I don't remember why there was poo on the pen.
Okay.
maybe we'll have to watch it and see why. Maybe I will watch it now.
And pretty violent and gory is my last note.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
Well,
you had me at poop pens.
I mean, yeah, if someone just said, hey, poo pens and crotch stabbing,
I mean,
cunt, I'd be like,
are we talking about Black Christmas again? No, I'm
No.
kidding.
I enjoyed the movie. It's definitely weird. I mean, there's some really weird parts, but there's also a lot of just really kind of quirky, funny parts too, which I really appreciated. So it's a good mixture of funny and I don't know if I would call it horror exactly, but definitely in that vein. Yeah, it's a fun, interesting movie, and you have to what's the phrase? Not give it the benefit of the doubt, but
suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, you have to suspend some disbelief because there's some weird shit that happens, but it's fun.
Well, I didn't watch it because I think to buy it, it was like $9, and to rent it, it was like $7. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch scary movies or scary stories to tell in the dark because I hadn't seen that from last year because it's cheaper rental.
Maybe I'll watch it again if it comes out on like Shudder or something.
Yeah.
But I think we paid $7 to rent it because I'm like, well, it's cheaper than going to the theater. But
yeah, true.
And 2 of us watched it.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna pay another $7.
If you do rewatch it, like however you do, I will watch it with you.
We can split the cost.
Yeah, or we could do that. Yeah.
All right. So the next movie we watched is VFW.
Yeah, baby.
This is directed by Joe Bagos, who also directed Bliss, which we also just watched. Even though that came out last year, we're going to mention it briefly after we talk about this. So this is basically a grindhouse-esque film about war veterans who must defend their local VFW post and a teen who stole millions of dollars of a street drug called hype from a deranged drug dealer and his army of drugged out zombies. She did it to seek revenge on them for the death of her sister, and that
tells a lot, actually.
Yeah, but that basically sums up the story in like the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, Sharon sent me a text that just said, just watched VFW, I think. And it was totally out of context. And so I was like, what are you talking about? Because I thought you meant you like went to a VFW and like sat there. And then you were like, we talked about this. Don't you remember? And I was like, oh, the movie. So,
oops.
And so then I went on to watch it. And I also did what you did. I just wrote down my observations as I watched it. So we can go back and forth.
So what did you think?
I fucking loved it. Yeah, I actually have to say that I know we said no more politics, but just in terms of the argument about gun control, these are the kind of guys that are in the VFW they're vets, and they're the one, obviously, and I have absolutely no problem with those guys having guns because they are obviously able to handle their weapons, and they are so fucking badass.
And let's just mention the cast really quick. Stephen Lang, William Sadler, Martin Kove, David Patrick Kelly,
who likes to smoke pot a lot. Clearly,
he's basically Jerry Horn from season 3 of Twin Peaks in this movie as well.
Yeah.
Fred Williamson and also George Wendt, who basically is Norm but with a gun.
Norm with a gun.
And he's also in Bliss, which we'll get to, but
yes,
those guys, like, I wanted to hang out at the VFW and drink with those guys.
I really, really liked the relationship between all of them and their banter. It felt like really real to me.
Yeah, for sure. Not even 10 minutes into the movie, I wrote down the comment, machete to the head, not 10 minutes in, already living up to the hype, which hype was the drug that Sharon mentioned. Lame joke, but I will say...
But the movie's not lame.
Without spoiling too much, this is the kind of movie that knows how to use gratuitous violence in like the best way possible.
It's extremely bloody, gory, and violent, but it's also very dark and gritty, so it subdued a lot of like the blood and guts. So there's a lot of times where you know that, you know, someone's face is getting totally like fucked up. You can't tell like exactly what's going on.
Yeah, there were a few fight scenes that I couldn't tell who was smacking who, but then you'd see somebody's head just get like ripped open with like blood splatter everywhere. It was awesome.
Yeah. So we totally recommend watching VFW. That's probably my favorite movie of the year so far as like 2020 horror movies.
And don't get it confused with UHF.
Which is also a good movie, but very different. Also, I know that we talked about this being, you know, a recent movie, but I actually wrote down, again, wait, this was made in 2019? Hilarious, because it does have that like retro look and feel to it. And then I wrote, also, what's Ty West up to these days? Because we haven't heard much from him, but it reminded me in that way, that the look and feel of it reminded me of
70s, 80s horror.
But
well, plus I mean, it does take place today, I think, but also the fact that none of them were using cell phones. Like partway through the movie, I was like, why don't they just use a cell phone and call for help, or you call the cops or whatever? But I kind of liked that even though it took place today, they didn't use any of the technology of today, which made it feel more like it was from like the 70s or 80s.
And the gang member guys, I guess, they all looked very 80s, like
punk.
gang punk. Yeah. And yeah, I was going to say something else, but I won't. Just watch it. Honestly, it's a good, I would say, even though I was sad at times for stuff, but because I just loved the main character so much, it was a blast.
Yeah.
So
very fun.
So then Sharon told me this was the same director did the movie Bliss, which is on Shudder. So literally as soon as I almost said UHF as well, VFWs ended, I immediately went to Shudder and watched Bliss. This is an interesting movie. It's very different from VFW. There are certain movies that attempt to like do a scene where like somebody's tripping and they make this movie, I feel like, again, without saying too much, they nail it. There's drugs, like drug use and stuff throughout the film, and like there was a moment watching it where I literally had to like look away from my television because I literally kind of felt like I was tripping.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of it was shot with handheld cameras, a lot of tight close-up shots of the actors' faces, 360-degree shots, strobe lights, metal music. I mean, it all kind of just made you feel. And there was even a warning before the movie,
which I was like,
that if you're sensitive to strobe lights, you know, you might have a seizure if you watch this. So
this movie
careful.
is so batshit, you might have a seizure.
Yeah, I liked it. I definitely didn't like it as much as I liked VFW.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm not sure. So basically, if you haven't seen Bliss, it's about a brilliant painter who's facing a creative block. This is from IMDb. They kind of sum it up nicely. And she starts, you know, taking this drug to try and complete her masterpiece and spiraling into this hallucinatory hellscape of like drugs and sex and murder. And one thing that I noticed, I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but I found like a lot of references to Dante's Inferno. Basically, limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, anger, violence, and treachery are some of the 9 circles of hell in Dante's Dante's 9 Circles of Hell. And there was actually a character in the movie named Dante. So
interesting.
I'm just saying.
On the nose a little? I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah.
But anyways, it was good. Check it out.
It's definitely an experience, I feel like, too. Like, it's not really, I mean, it's a movie, but it's an experience. And yeah. And I mean, if they say sex sells, there's a pretty gratuitous sex scene pretty early on. So if that's your thing, you won't be disappointed.
All right. So now we have some 2020 horror movies that are going to be coming out this year, obviously, 2020. But we had 2 previous episodes where we went through a huge list of 2020 horror movies. These were not on that list, so we're going to cover them now. The first movie is Swallow, and these are going to be in order of when they're released. So this comes out March 6th. It stars Haley Bennett as Hunter, a prim newlywed whose domestic malaise sends her to start eating things to break up her dull routine and her pre-planned life. And we don't just mean soft things, we mean batteries, marbles, thumbtacks, and more.
Yum.
But trying to digest sharp objects is a bad idea, and when Hunter's secret addiction is discovered, she has to either confront the roots of her compulsion or bury herself behind the guise of a pretty housewife. So I don't know if you've seen this this tweet. It's become viral. But when I was reading the plot of this movie, it reminded me of this tweet, which I'm going to read now. So this person wrote, I forgot who tweeted this, I'm sorry, but their tweet was, I just watched a woman drink laundry detergent at work today, bottle to mouth, in the aisle. I said nothing, but when we made eye contact, she just gasped and was like, I'm going to buy it. Bitch, I'm not worried about you buying it. What the fuck are you doing?
Isn't there a show like My Strange Addiction or something?
Yes,
That's what I was thinking of too. But wow, that's pretty funny. And Ew, thumbtacks? Gross.
All right.
The next movie we're going to talk about is called The Vast of Night. It's being released on March 13th. It's about an alien presence in small-town America. The cinematography is supposed to be gorgeous, and the art direction supposedly places it in the category of the most stunning horror films. Wow. And the movie has the feel of a Twilight Zone episode. Hell yeah. A teenage phone operator and a local radio DJ in 1950s New Mexico set out to solve the mystery of a strange frequency that's invading the airwaves in their town. After playing festivals through the end of last year, Amazon will release Vast of Night sometime this year, so that's sweet. See also Part 8 of David Lynch's groundbreaking third season of Twin Peaks.
That's exactly what I was thinking of as you were reading that. I was like, sounds just like Part 8 of season 3 of Twin Peaks. Got a light.
Exactly.
All right. So now we have The Hunt, which comes out March 13th. 12 strangers wake up in a clearing. They don't know where they are or how they got there. They don't know they've been chosen for a specific purpose. The Hunt. Starring my girl crush, Betty Gilpin. And it also has Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny. So
awesome sauce.
Yeah, there's been a lot of buzz about this. And I think I really want to go see it when it comes out in the theaters.
Yeah. Next up is Vivarium.
Probably.
That's what how I think it's
Sure.
Vivarium.
Yeah, Vivarium.
Sounds right.
Coming out March 27th. Coming at ya March 27th. I don't know why I said that. A young couple is thinking about buying their starter home. And to this end, they visit a real estate agency where they are received by a strange sales agent who accompanies them to a new, mysterious, peculiar housing development to show them a single-family home. There, they get trapped in a surreal, maze-like nightmare. By the way, a vivarium is typically an enclosed area used for raising and observing plants or animals. So I'm picturing season 1 of the OA. But anyway, I'm in. That sounds kind of cool.
I actually saw a trailer for this. It looks kind of interesting.
All right.
What's next, Sharon?
What is next? It is Escape Room 2, which comes
boy.
out April 17th. The two heroes from the first film successfully, well, spoiler.
I know. I was like, I haven't seen Escape Room 1.
I haven't seen either, but actually I've been hearing from a lot of people that it's really good. So I think put it on the list.
Put it on the list. But somebody's got to survive usually. So.
Usually. So the two heroes from the first film successfully completed the deadly escape room and finished the movie vowing vengeance on the people who entrapped them. And that's
okay.
all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, next we have Promising Young Woman, which is scheduled for an April 17th release. This is a rape and revenge movie starring Carey Mulligan. Oh, I love me some rape and revenge movies. That's sarcasm.
Your favorite.
Yeah. But I do love me some Carey Mulligan. She plays Cassandra, a woman who plays vulnerable out at bars to see which shitty men fall for her honey trap or honey pot, as Sterling Archer would say. I'm not sure which phrase is correct, but we'll go with both phrasing. They insist they're nice guys, in air quotes, but Cassandra knows better, and she's out to make them pay. A former pre-med student who had to drop out after a traumatic incident, the movie will explore what happened to this once promising young woman surrounded by bad men and what she's doing to take out the trash. My initial reaction was, but it does sound interesting, and
I don't like the rape, but I like the revenge. So
I like the Mulligan, so there we go.
Fear Street, June 5th. Lee Janiak, director of Mindy's favorite movie, Honeymoon.
Yay!
She hates that movie. So she is directing all three films in this planned trilogy adapted from the R.L. Stine book of the same name. The first film will be set in 1994, and it follows a group of teens who learn that their town has a history of terrible interconnected events that have been playing out for centuries. The other installments take place in 1978 and 1666. That can't be right.
Maybe. I mean, if it's been happening for decades or centuries or whatever.
And then circle back to 1994.
That's actually pretty interesting.
Very interesting. So the Fox project was originally meant to see each of the three films released in successive months, but under Disney ownership, it's unclear if that strategy is still in place. Regardless, Fear Street, Chapter 1 comes out this summer.
Next up, we have The Witches, scheduled for October 9th release. This version will be directed by Robert Zemeckis. It is his interpretation of the 1973 Roald Dahl book of the same name, starring Anne Hathaway in the role of Grand High Witch, also starring Octavia Spencer, Chris Rock, and Stanley Tucci. Hell yeah. The story tells the scary, funny, and imaginative tale of a 7-year-old boy who has a run-in with some real-life witches. The cast sounds impressive, but ain't no one gonna outwitch Angelica Houston, who was in the first movie. Just saying. But yeah, sweet. That's interesting.
I loved that book as a kid.
I know, I did too. And
So-
I kind of liked the movie too, so I'm interested to see the new one now.
God, I saw that movie so long ago. I don't remember if I liked it or not, but I'm sure I did.
Rewatch.
All right. Next, we have Blood Quantum, which comes out October 19th. Mi'kmaq filmmaker, Mi'kmaq being the name for indigenous people who are among the original inhabitants of the Atlantic provinces of Canada. And I did do a Google search to try and pronounce that correctly because it's spelled MI''GMAQ.
Yeah, I never would have gotten that.
I did not want to mess that up. So if I said that wrong, blame the website.
But also, please tell us how to properly say it.
Exactly. But I hope I pronounce it right. So Mi'kmaq filmmaker Jeff Barnaby, who wrote and directed this film about a First Nations tribe, his own in fact, dealing with a siege of the undead of their Red Crow Reserve. The Mi'kmaq, however, are immune to whatever is causing this zombie contagion, which means they have to fend off a bunch of white walking dead. Quantum will arrive on Shudder later this year.
I'm in. That sounds great.
And original, and yeah, I'm like we've mentioned in the past, loving all these new concepts for zombie movies.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, we have The Other Lamb, a release date TBD. It was released at film festivals around the world last year, but has no official U.S. release date as of right now. The story centers on an isolated religious community called the Flock, that is made up of all female subordinates with one male leader. Yikes. When a member named Selah, I'm going to go with, Selah, participates in the, quote, sacred ritual of the birthing of the lambs, unquote, it leads to a, quote, transformative experience that will probably be pretty frightening. I have no idea. I'm going to play it by ear, but interesting.
So the rest of these movies are TBD, to be determined. So sorry, we don't have release dates on these. When we get them, we might let you know. Who knows?
But here's what's coming, because there's some exciting
Or
stuff,
look it up
I think,
yourselves,
coming.
people. All right. The Platform. It premiered at International Film Fest last year, but no U.S. release at this time. This is a Spanish film set in a vertical prison where inmates live two to a cell, and they can only get to eat when a platform passes through their level and pauses for 2 minutes while they feast. The horror of it all is that the table starts full at the top, and those near the bottom only get to eat what is left by the end. That sounds really unique. Yeah.
Huh.
I'll definitely check that out. It honestly, it kind of reminds me of Snowpiercer, but
I was going to say, right?
but you know,
Vertical instead of horizontal.
exactly.
Weird.
All right.
All right. Next up, I'm interested actually in this one. There's going to be a remake of the film Rebecca, also TBD on the release date. This is an adaptation of the Gothic horror classic by Daphne. I always would say DeMaurier. I have a hard time pronouncing shit. But based on Daphne, I'm going to go with her novel, also named Rebecca, from 1938, which if you've not read it, it's amazing. Arnie Hammer stars as Maxim De Winter, with Lily James playing his new bride. It's only after the newlywed couple arrive at his massive country estate that his new bride realizes how large a shadow his late wife will cast over their lives, presenting her with a lingering evil that threatens to destroy their marriage from beyond the grave. Rebecca will debut on Netflix I love this book, like I said, and the Hitchcock original version. So I'm definitely curious about this, and any excuse to reread that book, really, I'll take. So I might do a reread, but yeah, that word up.
I never heard of the Hitchcock. Is it called Rebecca?
Yeah.
Huh.
To which my mom always makes the joke from the movie Airheads. Oh, they made a book about that? I'll take the book.
All right. We have coming up next Sea Fever. Released at film festivals around the world last year, but no official U.S. release as of now. This film comes from Ireland. The crew of a West Ireland trawler marooned at sea struggle for their lives against a growing parasite in their water supply. Sea fever is expected to drop sometime this spring.
And lastly, on this list, for now at least,
I'm excited about this one, Mindy.
It's called Untitled Body Swap Thriller Horror, a comedy from Blumhouse, starring Vince Vaughn.
That is a very long name for a film.
Is that really the name?
No.
I know, I was kidding.
No, you
but
weren't.
That would be amazing.
No, you weren't.
I kind of think that someone should make a movie like that. But yeah, it's very descriptive.
That would be fun if they go with it. Blumhouse, we want you to consider actually calling your film Untitled Body Swap Thriller Horror Comedy from Blumhouse.
I'm already in.
Starring Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, the whole title.
The whole title.
The story revolves around the surprise body swapping of a large male serial killer and a petite teenage girl. Vaughn is the murderer terrorizing a small town, and Catherine Newton plays the introverted high school student, meaning you actually get to see him play an adolescent girl while she's a hardened sociopath on a killing spree. The Blumhouse title should arrive sometime in the second half of the year.
I am so into this.
That sounds awesome. And Vince Vaughn as a serial killer, if you have not seen...
Oh, sorry, I know you're going to say. I just was very excited.
Oh, Clay Pigeons. I totally blanked on that for a fucking second.
I'm sorry.
If you have not seen Clay Pigeons, watch Clay Pigeons, also starring Joaquin Phoenix.
That's such a good movie.
And Janine Garofalo. It's hilarious. It's fun.
Awesome.
But he's so good.
He's a good creepy guy for sure.
A very good
great.
Creepy guy.
I'm psyched. Yeah.
Oh, and he also played Norman Bates in Gus Van Sant's remake.
I know.
But he does creepy.
Yeah, he does creepy very well.
He's a good actor. I have a couple updated release dates for the movies that you just mentioned. The Vast of Night, supposedly May 29th. That's what IMDb says. Escape Room 2, supposedly November 30th. Got pushed back. And then I think I think that's it. Proceed.
I think that's it for our movies.
That's
a lot to talk about.
It was a lot to talk about. This is our first Hodgepodge episode, and we will be doing more Hodgepodge episodes, so we hope you liked it. There's a lot of news coming out about the horror genre, and
we have lots of opinions.
Yeah, so
there's a YouTube channel called Upcoming Horror Movies or Horror Films, something like that, and they just release trailers all the time. And there's a ton of movies that are coming out.
I
was gonna say
no, but for the folks who are listening, if you want to see more about what's coming out and you want to actually watch the trailers, there's a lot.
Yeah, we will not be watching that YouTube channel, but everyone, there you go. I want to really quickly, honorable mention, side note, this is not really horror related at all, but I just wanted to say a quick farewell to the show BoJack Horseman, which is a Netflix original. If you've not watched it, it is one of my favorite shows maybe ever, and it just ended. And to sum it up, I'm going to quote a tweet from singer-songwriter Jenny Owen Youngs that she posted like a week or two ago that said, "In the days since I finished watching the final episodes of BoJack Horseman, I have not stopped thinking about it. Specifically, I keep thinking that I feel lucky to be alive to experience this particular work of art in real time." And I couldn't agree with her more. You can actually hear Jenny's song Wake Up off her album An Unwavering Band of Light play out the season 4 finale of the show. She's amazing. But thank you to all of you artists that made this possible, voice actors, animators, writers, directors. I am beyond grateful for your time and talents that brought this show into existence. Who would have guessed a show about a washed-up TV star who's half man, half horse would become the best show to ever encapsulate the human condition? But here we are. So thank you.
I know. I have to watch it.
It's intense.
Stop looking at me.
It cuts to the chase, man. Like it cuts literally to right
each
through your
season,
soul.
Each season gets more and more interesting and emotional. With like ridiculous comedy jokes like thrown in there at the same time.
And Will Arnett is a national treasure. The voice work that he does, that they all do, but they do an entire episode that is silent. Well, there's no speaking of any of the characters, and due to how he characterizes the show, or how he characterizes the character with his voice, like just through the animation alone, we can get a full idea of like what Bojack's thinking and feeling, and it's just, but it's relevant, and it's witty, and it's funny, and it's savage in terms of like its commentary on Hollywood and pop culture, and it
deals with a lot.
And it literally is one of the best representations of the human condition I have ever seen, ever. And it's
with an animal, and it's animated.
Yep, exactly. Brilliant.
All right.
Don't tell me to wrap it up. Anyway, love you, Bojack.
My bladder's going to explode if you don't wrap it up, bitch.
And on that note.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this week. And please go on iTunes or wherever you listen to us and rate and review us. Help us grow. We love doing this. It's so much fun. And continue sending us scary stories, any ideas you want us to talk about.
Movies we should check out, shows we should check out, of any true crime, violence, horror, whatever.
Or if you just want to say hi.
Or if you want to say, we'll say hi back. We love it.
So I think that's it.
And in closing, to quote Sarah Lynn from BoJack Horseman, suck a dick, dumb shits.
Now I definitely need to watch this show. All right. And as always, thanks for getting creepy with us. Sharon, do you want a beer?
Oh my God.